Hey, what's up you guys? It's Six. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is super fun because fun fact, if you're a patron watching this on Friday, it is currently my birthday. If you are a regular viewer watching this on Saturday, still very cool of you. Yesterday was my birthday. But this video is not in celebration of my birthday and is in fact in celebration of me hitting 10,000 followers on Instagram, which is a very nice birthday gift, might I add. So I will be hosting a little Draw This in Your Style event as you guys voted on in the community poll on my community tab. I'll have this contest open until May 10th, which is next month, and I'll announce the winners the following 13th or the 12th if you're a patron. Some rules though, you gotta be following me on Instagram. I know, boo, but this is a Draw This in Your Style for that platform, so you gotta be following me. You also need to include this post in your piece in some way, or your post in some way rather. If it's a reel, film a little clip, or include it in your slide if it is a photo or a carousel. And if a carousel is multiple photos on Instagram, don't tell me that, because I didn't know. As I was scripting this, it took me maybe 20 attempts before I realized it's a carousel, multiple photos in one. I don't know. Don't tell me. And lastly, last rule is use the hashtag SixStudios10K and tag me in your entry so I can see it. Again, that is hashtag SixStudios10K, and I am at six.studios on there. So that is it. Those are the only rules. You can draw her any which way you want. It can be any type of post you want. You can have a different background, different color scheme, pose, expression, whatever, as long as your piece resembles this character in some way, shape, or form. So the winning prizes for the contest will be as follows. First place is a fully rendered bust commission. Second place is a fully rendered icon, and third place is a sketch icon. Also, really quickly, there are a few things I want to touch on before we get into the main part of the video. So one of those things is that I just want to again say thank you guys so much for helping me reach 10,000 followers. It means the world to me that you guys care about my art in any capacity. It's so hard for me to wrap my head around, and I don't want this to be like a celebration of like, look at all the followers I have, but it's rather like, look at all the followers I have. Look at all of you guys. All of you guys like my work for whatever reason in some way, whether it was a follow in passing or if you're somebody that has come back to consistently view my work and look at my art. That just, it means a lot to me, and that's why I love to host these little events, because it's like that number, like it's arbitrary in like it could be any number. It could be 10, it could be 100, it could be 1,000, it could be whatever. It's still something that's like, people care about my art. I have to do something for them because they mean a lot to me. And gift giving is how I like to do that. But unfortunately, I can't give 10,000 people artwork. So that is why I like to do these little events and stuff, so I can give back to you guys in some way. So yeah, I appreciate you guys so much. So thank you for that. And the next and last thing, again, before we get into the video, is kind of funny. I just want to reiterate that last week's video was not an April Fool's video. It was just incredibly unplanned and unfortunate timing. It is indeed a real tutorial. I had a ton of things in there, like brushes that I use, techniques that I use, things I like to look for in references, and things like that. So if you are interested in learning how to paint clouds or any kind of sky scenery, you can go and check that out. And I also did actually open my Patreon again. That was not a goof. I know I made a video a few months back about why I closed it, but I've since reopened it, totally revamped everything. So in case you missed it, I added a few new tiers and new tier rewards, like a Patreon exclusive monthly podcast, monthly commissions, and I cut the price of my physical tier, my matcha meal tier, in half, and a ton of other fun things too. I also dropped the poll vote for April's merch theme, which is public to vote on. Patrons do, however, get first access to whips, finished illustrations, and the physical versions of merch up to a whole month early. So if you're interested, I hope you guys will go and give that a look. If you want to check it out, the link is on screen for you guys or down in the description and pinned comment. So now on to the main event. So this illustration was really fun for me because it was literally an emotional roller coaster throughout the entire thing. I started this piece off having no idea what I wanted to do for it. I was, of course, as I always am, itching to do some kind of fantasy monster girl-esque character, but because of April's merch theme, I wanted to steer away from that so I would still have ideas should one of those options win this month's poll. That did not, however, stop me from going on to Monster Girl Maker though, because as I've been finding lately, dress up apps are a great place to go when Pinterest is failing you. I have mentioned throughout the past couple of videos that my Pinterest is just all of the same types of posts and outfits and poses and just all the same stuff. So I have been trying to not use it as often. So again, I opened Monster Girl Maker and I tried to keep things vaguely humanoid because I wanted to again steer away from the monster direction and instead just choose options that I don't normally do too often for characters, like really short poofy hair and micro bangs, etc. I feel like I was able to capture some of those elements, but a lot of them, particularly accessories like the eyebrow piercings and the earrings and the micro bangs, unfortunately, I feel like got lost in the line art. I removed a lot of the piercings because I think the bangs definitely ended up being longer than I'd intended them to be, so they got hidden a little bit. And I also added in these butterflies last minute because I'd seen a few options on MGM that had like flowers coming out of the skin, which was a really cute idea that I wanted to do, but again, I didn't want to step on my future toes with my spring fantasy characters, so I ended up going with butterflies because I had taken a selfie earlier that day with the butterfly filter on Snapchat because, surprise, surprise, I dyed my hair again, and so I was trying to document that. Anyway, with the design bits out of the way, it is time to move on to sketching. So sketching this character was really difficult. I'm not sure if it was because I was looking at a stylized reference or because I'd made a ton of art a few days prior after not making any art at all for a good long while, but either way, getting down to sketching was hard. I ended up actually sketching traditionally, which I think really helped. So a big tip I want to mention is if you're ever struggling to get a sketch together in Procreate or whatever digital program you use, I would recommend you grab a ballpoint pen. It doesn't have to be fancy. I personally like to use the Papermate inkjets because they're comfy to hold, and also the ink is really creamy and layerable. But you can literally use like a pen you got off the floor of a gas station or in your doctor's office or whatever, and some printer paper, and I swear you will be so thrilled with the end result, especially if you work digitally primarily. It can be really fun to switch it up sometimes all you need is a change of material or in your environment and you end up making really cool art. So that is what I ended up doing, and it all started to come together after that and a few failed attempts. I also want to mention that this tip works vice versa. However, there is a bit of a learning curve if you're someone that primarily works traditionally and you're going to sketch digitally. There is a bit of a curve, but once you get there, you will find that it is really comfortable and really helpful to kind of switch back and forth between mediums. So anyway, once I got the line art finished, it was officially time to render, which is what you guys have all been seeing so far. So rendering for this piece was supposed to be easy because I actually did the smart thing and did a few color studies prior to starting. I'll pop those up here. So you can see I had a pretty clear idea in mind for what I wanted to do. However, the thing I always fail to remember about color studies is how much shading changes the tone of your original colors. I was having a lot of trouble getting good contrast and also making sure that my colors looked harmonious enough. I was going for a really cool toned analogous color palette, mainly like blues and purples with some warm tones mixed in, and I noticed that particularly when doing her face, that some colors were just not meshing. The blush specifically, I had no idea what color to use for that, but I ended up settling on a shade that was brighter, more purple, and more saturated than I think I was initially envisioning, especially because I ended up going less saturated for her skin somehow. I'm not really sure what happened there, but I carried on and went for her hair. So the hair is so hilarious to me because I realized literally as I was finishing off the render, for everything almost, that it is the exact same color as my first ever Draw This in Your Style, so I will pop that up here too. Looking at it now, it's thankfully not as similar as I thought it was when I was working on this. I very nearly considered changing up the entire color palette because of that, but I am really glad that I kept it though, because these colors really helped complement the iridescent look of the butterflies later on. My only complaint is that I wish I'd put some deeper shadows in the hair. Again, was really struggling with contrast for this piece. One thing I do like though about this illustration is the small details and the makeup. So starting off with the makeup, since that's likely what you guys are seeing first, I really wanted to do something fun with this, and actually a lot of it ended up being an accident. I did want to do like a black eyeshadow, but I had it really simple as like a smudge thing, and then a sort of duochrome black and blue lip. But watching the shadow transform from like just a smudgy black to a really neat graphic shape with pastel liner was something that was so unintentional. My hand just started doing it, which was really refreshing. For the longest time, I have been meticulously planning out every single aspect of a painting down to the last brush stroke. So to have been in a state where I was able to just make something for the sake of making it, change it as I worked, was, like I said, really refreshing. I also experimented a little bit with her lipstick, but ended up going a more simple route because I hadn't rendered the butterflies yet, and I wasn't sure if the more like galaxy look of them was going to take away from that, which I'm pretty grateful that it did, because I do in fact think that it would have. In the original thumbnail, I like her gloss better. The way that I'd done it, it was like a lighter blue, but then I had like a sort of like really saturated blue outside of the shine, so it looked like really glossy, really colorful, but I ended up blowing that out of proportion with the original highlights, so I just went for a simple light blue when I actually did it, which is unfortunate, but again, I did not want to take away from the butterflies. So speaking of the butterflies, I'm really thrilled with how they turned out. I wanted them to be white with like a pastel rainbow freckled in, like opal or glitter or something like that, and I think I was really able to capture that, especially because I was using a flat paintbrush. I think it's literally just called like flat, or like flat render or flat brush or something, in the painter section of Procreate, and it looked so good, and it was so fun to just meticulously place every little fleck of color. It was just so satisfying. I wish I would have thought to film a reel of that, because it was so freaking cute. I had so much fun, so maybe I'll do something similar here in the future, but I really enjoyed doing that. One thing I do wish is that they looked more pearlescent rather than this like actual like glow that they have. They're like luminescent, but that's fine. Oh well, I still really liked the colors and making these shapes with them. I thought the whole experience was really fun, and I still do like the kind of luminescence of it, I guess. Next, for the smaller and maybe less noticeable details, I did a lot of like pastel glowy colors for the highlights of her face, which I don't normally do. Normally I'll put highlights all over, but I'll just keep it one color, and then maybe add like a pop of pink here and there around her cheeks, or her cheeks, around their cheeks, whatever character I'm doing, or whatever color their makeup is, if it's pink, if it's whatever. Then I'll add kind of like a little saturated version of that near like the nose highlights or the cheekbones. But again, I don't normally do that as much. However, I did it all over the place with this, and with a lot of different colors. I had pinks going on, purples, blues, yellows, greens, whatever. I went all over the face, and I think it looks super cool. All sorts of color shifts going on, and I am just in love with them. I'm also so glad that I remembered to add in her freckles last minute, because I almost forgot, and I think that definitely helped pull the finished piece together. I even hand drew some of my own freckles in there, apart from the brush that I normally use, so you should have a good variance in size, and I think it looks pretty natural to me, so that is a win for me. I am somebody that I really struggle to put freckles on characters, by hand, because I feel like I tend to like put them in like little patterns and stuff, and so they don't look as natural, as organic, and so the fact that I was able to do that in some small capacity for this piece was really fun, and it was like a goal. I did it, so yay, go me. Anyway, finally comes all the finishing details. So I added some embellishments to her shirt, and then it was on to messing with the background and overlays. I didn't have a solid idea for the background, other than I wanted it to be kind of similar to those oil paintings you see with the really like dark black background, but then they have like this brownish yellowy glow behind the figure, but I wanted to do that with blue, and I don't think I really accomplished that look. I think maybe because the colors were too smooth. I might try a similar technique with a more painterly brush and see if I like the result of that more. Another thing I want to suggest to myself, I guess, is to not only use that painterly brush, painterly technique, but also use a blue that is more similar to the background color in value, so just barely brighter. Carry that out and then slowly go brighter and brighter as you near towards the figure. My problem, I think, was using just a bright color from the get-go and then doing a Gaussian blur. I think all of those together made it so that I was not able to accomplish that look, but regardless, I still think she looks really cool. I also ended up adding a couple of blurring and noise effects because she was giving me low-key, for whatever reason, computer virus baddie vibes. I'm not sure what was going on there, but I added a slight Gaussian blur, again very slight, and then I added a chromatic aberration, just barely, and it wasn't like the default setting for it. I think it was like the second version, which I believe it's like displace or something like that. Just barely moved it the slightest bit, like you would not notice unless I mentioned it, I hope. And then, like I said, I added a noise overlay, and I think that helped give the piece a bit more texture as well, because on its own it just seemed way too smooth, way too like perfectly rendered. Anyway, well, perfectly rendered in like that it looks not like a person, which I don't usually have that issue in my illustrations, so or at least from my perspective, I don't really have that issue. So I don't know why this was just giving me like Uncanny Valley vibes. So I just added some of those, and I think that really helped remove some of that. I also went in off camera and added a few flecks of blue and white and purple here and there to give it more interest. So I will show you guys on my birthday these airplanes. So rude. Anyways, I'll show you guys a close-up of that really quickly. But yeah, that is officially it for this piece, you guys. I hope you like it and are excited to give it your own spin. Don't forget, this contest is taking place on Instagram. So tag me at six.studios and use the hashtag SixStudios10K so I can see your entries. I can't wait to see what you guys make. Also, of course, I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons, which is something I haven't said in a long time, and I'm really excited to say it again. So thank you so much to Elise Thompson, Duran, Mandy, Sleeps, Created by Twins, Inky Moo Art, and Steph. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting me. If you want to get your own shout out alongside these guys, as well as fun stuff like monthly merch drops, an exclusive podcast, monthly commissions, and more, be sure to check out the Patreon at patreon.com/SixStudios, as you see on screen here, again down in the description as well. I love you guys so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.